So I guess we can address what happened to really open up these trade talks in Leafs Nation. So there were a couple of trades earlier this past week. Maple Leafs acquired Ryan Dzingel and Ilya Lyubushkin. Dzingel was eventually claimed by the uh, San Jose
The
Sharks off of waivers, and then they also traded for Carter Hutton, who I don't see him making any impact on this Maple Leafs roster unless disaster strikes.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
he was waived earlier that week, and then he got picked up for future consideration. So I don't know if that was kind of the tail end of Dzingel getting claimed off San Jose or whatever it worked out to. But yeah, I don't. I'm agreeing. I'm on you. I'm on with you with that one. I don't think we're going to see too much of Carter Hutton in a
yeah,
Leaf
no,
uniform.
no, because you have Joseph Wall, who's played some solid outings with this Maple
Yep,
Leafs team already this season. He's 23 years old. You also have Michael Hutchinson, who's been in and out of the organization for the past 4 years. So there has to be some trust there.
absolutely. I think you're spot on with that one.
But today, what happened is the Maple Leafs placed Jake Muzzin on long-term injured reserve. With that, they free up some cap space. They have over $5 million of cap space available to them at the present moment. So that gives us the opportunity to discuss how would you like to see the Toronto Maple Leafs improve this roster? Would you like to see them add up front or back on that blue line, maybe a little bit of both?
I think a happy medium of both would probably suit best. But in terms of the assets they're willing to give up, the assets that several selling teams are going to be willing to acquire from them is going to play a factor for sure. So I don't necessarily think the Leafs are going to be able to have their cake and eat it too, in that sense, unless Dubas kind of threads the needle and finds a way. But I would say um, Sandin has had a successful season. Liljegren has made some big strides this year. Um, when Muzzin has been healthy, he's been a little bit up and down, so I guess that would be a negative on their blue line. Hole has also been in that same kind of conversation. Riley and Brody have been solid all year. So I think them bringing in Lyubushkin and the small sample size he's had in Toronto, I think he hasn't really, he's been exactly kind of what the scouting report was on him. He's been they actually mentioned in the broadcast tonight. He's been jumping up a little bit more in the rush more often than not than he was in Arizona, but he was playing solid minutes alongside Jacob Chitrin in the Coyotes organization. So I do think that has helped them in that sense to bolster their defensive end. Like we touched upon earlier, I do think that acquiring a top six left wing is going to be Dubas's priority in this upcoming trade deadline.
Yeah, and I'm really back and forth on this discussion. I really am because when I'm looking at the Maple Leafs blue line play, it's been really lackluster and it's been an eyesore for a majority of this season. Uh, Timothy Liljegren, he's taken big steps in his development, but I'm not sure that you want to have a pairing with him and Rasmus Sandin at any point in the playoffs. I think you need to improve on Justin Hall. Like
I would agree too.
I think that's something that is a must for this team. And if you could push him down to the bottom defensive pairing or just trade him, that would be your best case scenario. But I agree that you need to look to improve the top six left wing position on that second line. Uh, if you remember back to last year in the playoffs against Montreal Canadiens, the problem wasn't their defense, it was actually scoring. They couldn't score goals. And part of that, John Tavares was injured. But if you have an extra security, if you have more security, an extra insurance marker to put on that left wing position, I think that would definitely help them accumulate some goals, score some goals in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think maybe bringing in again, these have just been kind of floating around on my Twitter feed and stuff like that. I think maybe a guy like potentially like a Justin Braun could potentially be an option. Some guy with maybe a mediocre cap hit that you bring in to solidify that second pair right shot. You run Lyubushkin on the third pair and have your Liljegren as your seventh D alongside Dermott there. Dermott's obviously going to be in the pairings with Muzzin out though if he continues to be injured through when come playoff time. I think that's something that the Leafs could kind of look to venture out in doing, as well as potentially maybe seeing some sort of deal where the other team retains cap space, um, and then they can bring in some sort of a top six left winger to be able to kind of help out that offense a little bit, come down to the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, if those top four guys are getting locked up in the playoffs, we saw it last year with Montreal doing a fantastic job with the likes of Shea Weber, Ben Sherratt. Um, the rest of the team kind of tends to get deflated. So, I mean, obviously, this year's team is not the same as last year's team, but they kind of want to put themselves in the best position, I would think.
Definitely.